So thank you guys, thank you all for coming. My name is, I guess I know everybody knows everybody here, my name is Jessalyn Ball. I'm the operations manager for the Minnesota Craft Cannabis Guild. Here tonight to talk to you is Mike Lamuto. Mike, you want to come up, please introduce yourself, and then we'll get started with our panel discussion.
Awesome. Is this working? Hello. All right, it's working now. All right, Bob's giving me a thumbs up, so I know I'm good to go. Good to see everybody here. Thank you so much, Jessalyn. Thank you, Jude. Really, and this is going to be a great conversation. Whoa. I know it's going to be a great conversation here. One of the things, so I'm Mike Lamuto. I'm the chairman of the board for the Minority Cannabis Business Association. We're hosting an event next week here in Minneapolis, and actually the Wednesday evening, so it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And the Wednesday we'll close out here with a Canna Club takeover. We're going to do a storytelling symposium right here in this room. We'll start earlier in the day though, at 2 p.m. in the bar outside, and doing some seminars, talking about the culture of cannabis and really how to make sure that the culture is something that's preserved and amplified as we move into the regulated space and do it in the regulated manner. During the course of the event, it's 3 days. So the first day, Monday, will be at the North Point Conference Center on the north side. And that's going to be the policy summit. I know Jen, you're going to be there. I know a bunch of folks here are going to be there. It's going to be have 12 members of OCM that will be sitting in roundtable discussions with us and really talking about how do we move this ball forward, right? How do we make sure that as it rolls out here, that we do so. All right, where am I? Am I good right here? All right. So that's the policy summit, 9 to 1 on Monday. And then Tuesday is a little bit of a it's really we're focusing on the business of cannabis. So from 9 to 12:30, we'll be back at the North Point Conference Center, and that'll be focused on really a business mastermind. So again, a lot of roundtable discussions. We'll be starting the day actually with a sound bath to get us in the right space. We're going to be doing a mastermind around the winning mindset. I'm a big believer that it's the mindset that takes us to the next level in business, and especially in cannabis business, because it's brutal. And then we'll have roundtable discussions. We have a lot of folks coming in from around the country. I want to say about 12 to 15 speakers that are coming in from around the country to join us that day. All people of color, minorities who've been leading the charge in other states, whether it's as advocates or as operators or as both. And then we'll be shifting gears later that day in the afternoon to the hook and ladder. So from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock at the Hook and Ladder is the capital raising mastermind. So if you're looking to raise capital or to bootstrap, this is the chance to plug in with folks. I know that Elaine from Connect Up will be there as one of the mentors. There's going to be, again, a lot of mentorship conversations. We don't do a lot of panels. There will be a little bit of trainings, but most of the 3 days is a lot of roundtable conversations and sitting down one-on-one with people, being able to do a lot of mentorship. So that's pretty much the program. I have postcards that have a code that gets you about, I think it's about 70% off. We really wanted to make it accessible for the community and the folks that we know. So, we can get you those. Other than that, though, I'll be around after this, and definitely hit me up if you have any questions or anything like that. Hope to see you there. And one more thing to say too is, thank you again. I know I said thank you at the beginning to Bob, Jessalyn, Jude. Sarah's not here right now, but it's because of the relationships that we've developed with our local partners that we're really able to do this event in the first place. That's a big important part for us as the MCBA. And so just shout out to you all for being so welcoming and really collaborative partners on this. So thank you. And I'll hand off to Mike now.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. All right. Welcome, everybody. We are here this evening to discuss labor peace agreements and labor in general, really. The idea of unions, the idea of labor peace agreements, and those kinds of things will be discussed. So, we have several folks with us this evening, and I'll go down the line here. On my documentation. So, all right, high five the guys there too. And I work in technology, so this is not difficult. I'm just assuming. All right. right, so going down the line, I'm Jude Croyle, the treasurer of the Minnesota Craft Cannabis Guild, and will be passing the microphone this evening. Directly to my right, I have Dan. We have Dan Gilbert with us, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Dan.
I don't know if I need the mic. You guys?
Please do use the mic because
Oh,
it's
all
hard
right.
to compete with the noise outside.
Okay, so I'm Dan Gilbert with Local 49. I'm also a licensed hemp grower, probably the farthest north, up in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Obviously, I've been dealing with the hemp market for a while. Now with the cannabis coming in, I've been jumping through the hoops just like you guys have. So I've been doing licensing, the whole works. I was denied. So probably a few of you know what I've been going through. You know, I would think that being licensed or being, doing everything I was doing, I thought for sure I'd be a shoe-in. Did everything just like everybody else, and I was denied. So it's a lottery system. We get that. I guess on to the next round. But if you guys got any questions, we're just here to kind of just level the playing field and understand where we're coming from. I know the unions, it's kind of a big term, right? I mean, it's the big bad unions, right? Well, that's why we're here to talk to you guys, to understand that we're here as a partner for you guys, rather than trying to run your business. We're trying to negotiate, trying to make it easy for everybody. So, thank you for your time, and here's pass it down.
Good evening. My name is Mark Pothen. I'm the Chief of Staff and Vice President for the Abbreviation News Local 49. Dan's got way more experience in kind of riding shotgun here as a facilitator, but labor union's been around for a long time and mainly represents on the equipment operators, but we also represent folks in this industry as well. And we're kind of doing some things for the business partners.
Hello. Right here? No, all right, I'm Abe Wangnoo. I'm a representative with UFCW Local 1189. We've been working on cannabis legislation and adult rec for almost 20 years here with most of you, ever since we kind of thought that there was a light at the end of that tunnel. And so, I think I've spoken to most of the folks in this room at some point in time or another. You're an educated group of people that cares about what you're doing. And so, be happy to answer any questions that y'all might have come up.
My name is Rowan Garrigan. I was an organizer and I'm currently serving on the negotiating committee between Mississippi Market and UFCW Local. And so I'm here to answer any questions about what that organizing process can look like, what it feels like from kind of ground up on the staff level.
Excellent. Thank you very much for those introductions. And with that, we'll dive right in. When I saw that labor peace agreements were a part of the legislation, my very first question to that was, what exactly is a labor peace agreement? So I looked it up and found out what it was. But I'm going to let Dan explain what is a labor peace agreement, or what are the key components of a labor peace agreement?
Okay, so obviously you guys get to that point where you have to have attestation for your license to get a labor peace agreement. However, it does to prove that you're signed with a bona fide union, right? So basically what it is in pursuit of Minnesota State Statute 342, on all cannabis licensing ordinances and regulations. It's just an agreement between the employer and the union, and it establishes a procedure, the purpose of ensuring the orderly environment for exercising employees their rights under the Section 7 of the NLRA. So basically, it's just an agreement that kind of helps everybody else come on the same playing field. I guess we'll get into other components of it, but basically the main component is to get you guys your license. That's basically what it is. It doesn't hurt you, doesn't bind. It doesn't hurt you in any way at this point. I guess that's my answer, and I could pass it on.
So did you ask what it is and what the components of it? Or what was the question? What are the components? Okay, so, I mean, really what a labor peace agreement is to us is it's an agreement of behaviors between companies and the union, especially when it comes to the way that workers are going to be treated that we're organizing. And so the components that we have in ours, which it's actually a pretty simple document, but most of the people that read it are like, did you write this with fucking Pothen? Because it is that simple to understand, because we don't want it to come off like lawyers are trying to trick people here. But it's very straightforward. And the things are, the union is agreeing to not take economic actions against a company at any time that the labor peace agreement is in effect. And that's really one of the things that the state wanted, was to make sure that there weren't labor disruptions in the new industry. And I think that the bill speaks about it that way. So, we're agreeing not to take economic action, strikes, pickets, boycotts, going on social media and saying, don't shop at your shop, shop at the union shop. We're agreeing not to do that. In exchange, you're going to treat workers with respect and want to organize a union, and you're going to give them access to the information if they want that. And it's a partnership, because really we work incredibly hard to see the folks that we represent, our members, get lifted up in the communities that they work in, that they live in. So that, I would say, is the main focus of it is the trade-off of how you treat the workers that want to organize a union versus are giving up our right to take economic action against your company. And some of the pieces in there that are more procedural, as to like how we're organizing campaigns that look, and how workers can have access to a card check agreement rather than have to go through an NRA election. But if we have disputes, how we would handle those resolutions, that's a big piece in there. And for the most part, that summarizes what ours is about.
Excellent. Thank you both for answering that question. That leads me to a couple more questions, actually, about labor peace agreements. If we enter into a labor peace agreement, does that mean I am a member of a union at that point, if I have signed a labor peace agreement? And so, yeah, who would like to answer that question? Does that mean I am a member of a union?
No, it doesn't mean you're a member of the union. It just means that, as they talked about, it kind of sets guidelines, parameters as far as the basic structure. So it doesn't mean that the employer is, or any prospective members at that point. It's just kind of the basic structure is laying out as far as card checks, representation, things like that. So it's a start of a relationship, I guess. That's what one can look at.
Awesome. Thank you. Are the labor peace agreements industry specific? Could we kind of talk about labor unions in different areas, and I understand that different unions represent different sectors or different segments of folks and workers. Are labor peace agreements industry specific? And
labor peace agreements are specific to the nature that you're going to use them for. So you would have a labor peace agreement for whatever industry that you're working on. So in this one, the labor peace agreements can be different than out in the construction, as in what we normally do. So a labor peace agreement for cannabis will be specific for cannabis. Labor peace agreement for any other industry will be specific for them.
I think that's right.
pretty much covers that. Very cool. So there's a lot of things. What am I thinking? Misconceptions, of course, for sure, around unions and unionization. And we want to bust through all of that without a doubt. The question that I have now is, what is the difference between an LPA or labor peace agreement and a CBA? And what is a CBA? So,
Okay, so the labor peace agreement is basically your company and an agreement between your company and your employees. Set up the guidelines, just like Abe said, that we wouldn't take any action against the company, boycotts or anything like that. Once you get your license and now you're gonna hire your employees, the CBA is a collective bargaining agreement. That's where we sit down and negotiate your contract. That's what you guys work on. The LPA is to get you into the door. The CBA is gonna where you're gonna line up all your employees. That's where we talk about wages, benefits, all that stuff. So the CPAs will be more company specific. So that's kind of the difference in the two. So the LPA is basically an agreement. The CBA is a working document, as in that's what the workers are going under. So they're two separate items. So the big bad union, the scary thing about the LPA is not the scary part. The other one is when you come into negotiations, that's where you're going to sit down with your collective bargaining agreement, negotiate your contract, and I believe Rowan she just did that, so she probably has a little bit more information on it.
I'm currently on the negotiating committee, negotiating our CBA, where we have a committee of employees and meet with our employer, hashing out the details, passing the propositions of the contract back and forth, and it's honestly not as scary of a process as I think a lot of people fear it could be. A lot of it's just open, honest discussion. It's a slightly different process than an LPA, but it's I found it very constructive because it gives a space for the employees and the employer to have an open, honest, safe conversation about their needs as a business and as an employee.
Here's a sample.
awesome.
So this is the LPA, this is a contract. So LPA, contract, two separate things. If you want to look them over afterwards, we can sit down and show you the difference of them.
Awesome. Thank you for answering those questions, both of you. And let's see. So, what does it take to start a union? This would be another question for Rowan.
Yeah, so it's a lot of one-on-one conversations with your coworkers. It's a lot of just gauging what your needs are and this environment and kind of see what you could do to help meet those needs. It's a lot of it's just building relationships. I think overall the process of organizing helps our company as a whole because it builds stronger relationships between each employee. And yeah, start out with just the folks you know who are like we know this person's pro-union and maybe negotiate with them and see what they're up to. And they connect with people they know and they connect with people they know and you just kind of spread the network just to start out.
Was it difficult at all? Did you find it to be difficult to start it, or was it very engaging?
It was, I think the most challenging part was trying to engage with people outside the workplace. This might be something different, or if you have a labor peace agreement where the employees already have that agreement where they can have these conversations openly or protected. For the first part of our organizing, we didn't have one of those in place, so it was very kind of hush-hush under the table, making sure things don't get out before we're ready to present. But that's where you find people who have different strengths. Like we had some people who were very organized as keeping track of who we had conversations with on staff and like what their strengths are. We had people who were much more social and like just were able to initiate these conversations without really feeling so awkward or afraid. We had people who were they were very much an advocate, very much like, oh, these right, they know their labor rights knowledge, and yeah, so you just kind of find out who has a strength for what, and lean into those strengths and work together, and makes the whole process go a lot smoother.
Fantastic. All right. All right, so what does union partnership look like? And I'm going to ask Mike about this one. What does union partnership look like?
Swinging you guys up, that's fine.
Hello, Mike. What was the question? Union-employee relationship?
What does union partnership look like?
As far as it's a business partnership, so the union itself doesn't employ staff, but without employers for members to work at, the union is only as strong as its business partners. So we're looking at this industry as far as just another opportunity for members to work in that historically we haven't. So we have a training fund, we have training classes, and training center as far as we have our own health fund, health insurance, we have our own central bona fide defined benefit pension. So some of the things that if employers are interested, we could take care of all that as far as the insurance piece, the pension piece, safety training. Those are just a few of the things that we offer. We offer member benefits for dues paying members that just for paying your dues, they get extra benefits. So we want our employers to be successful, for our members like us to work and they're successful and earn a living and make a livable decent wage and be members of society. So our employers do better, so our members. That sounds corny, but
So a little more onto that is that I would say that the simplest part of the partnership for a union is we're going to simplify the process, right? The state statute says you got to pay like $20 an hour plus benefits. That's where we come in. We simplify that process. We'll take care of the benefits for you guys. Basically, it'll be a line item. You would get a remittance form from a third-party organizer, right, or administrator. It would have a line item. You would just go through there, check the boxes, add it all up in the end, done. So you send it all in. They take care of all your benefits for your employees. Basically, I would say the partnership, the union is basically neutral. We negotiate for the employees and you guys, or if you guys are employers. That's what I would say more of the partnership. Just to elaborate on a little bit more.
Fantastic.
So, I guess maybe I'm going to interpret the question differently, but we have an opportunity here to start an industry that is new and exciting. And it's something that, like, even as a union, even though we've got members that work for big companies here, we advocated for the micro businesses, for the meso businesses, for the retail. We wanted there to be opportunities for more people because every single person probably in this room, hopefully, but tens of thousands of folks here wanted an opportunity to do something in this industry and they've waited forever. And so we don't want it to be limited to just a small amount of people that get to control everything. And that we're not going to let that happen. If we can build partnerships with folks that have similar interests and have similar goals in terms of the cannabis industry in Minnesota. So what we'd like to be able to do is we'd like to be able to have a big community of folks that are very, very much in the same place, that are looking out for the micro businesses and the small employers from having the Veranos and these other big ass companies come in here and take everything that we want to keep craft and we want to keep cool and we want it to be kind of funky sometimes. And so to do that, what we really need to do is we need to be working together strategically to figure out how are we going to make sure that ethical, honest businesses are successful here, and the ones that are going to be working in the gray or the black market, the folks that are going to be paying their people illegally under the table with cannabis are not successful. And so we've done everything we can to give a lot of people opportunities to start a business in Minnesota by giving away as many LPAs as people are wanting. But the truth is that these LPAs are not going to be good forever, and companies that are not ethical are not going to maintain partnerships with us. We are going to be in business to take care of good folks that take care of their people as well. And so our partnership is going to be about making sure that this industry stays very, very good for not just small businesses, but for workers, for medium-sized businesses, for opportunities to have variety and to have people get to experience and experiment with cannabis and what this industry can be. So we do have a lot that we were going to want to talk to folks about in the future too, about becoming a part of a bigger community that supports one another here, whether you're a retailer or a micro, or you're growing something, or you're a delivery business, or any of those. Like, we need to make sure that the good companies are successful here, just like we've done with some of your guys' businesses and companies. Just like the Minnesota retail food is one of the strongest markets when it comes to retail and wages and benefits, as well as market share in the country for unionized workforces and for local businesses. And so that's what this partnership is going to be in the long run. In the short term, it's just, hey, here you go, you can go get a shot at a license. But going forward, we want to make sure that folks are doing things for the right reasons.
Fantastic. And Rowan, same question. What does union partnership look like to you?
It's the only way everyone can have a chair at a conversation, really. You can be, I work for a co-op, which is a very, they have more of a values-driven environment. Even so, the workers weren't being heard. And so you can come in as a business owner with the best intentions, and no one was unionizing at the co-op because they thought folks were, immoral or anything like that. But you're going to lose voices, you're going to lose important voices, and the union is really the only way that conversation can continue in a healthy way. And I found that to be very empowering, both in my job and just in conversations overall. And I think for this industry, it can be a very important aspect.
That's awesome. All right. We had a discussion previously to this panel, and I remember during that conversation something mentioned about agriculture and unionization and watching out specifically for something in that. So can you enlighten me as to what that was? Do you remember? Thank you.
I believe what Jude is referring to is, we were just talking about when folks reach out, they want an LPA, and so some folks just reach out on their own behalf and say that they need one, and they're kind of representing themselves. Some folks are using consultant groups. You guys probably know as well as I do, there's some very ethical, honest ones out there. There's some that are willing to do work for you for a percentage of your business. There's the ones that are willing to give you something for nothing are the ones that are probably not representing your best interests. But when they reach out and they try to, we were talking about how like some folks are trying to kind of like sneak language into an LPA that would maybe take away our ability to effectually represent or organize workers that want it. And the scenario is that the NLRA has established that folks that are working in cannabis that are in cultivation are not covered under the NLRA necessarily because they're considered agricultural workers. So anytime an attorney is reaching out to me and saying, I want, that the bargaining unit can be set by the standards set in the NLRA or something like that. I know what they're trying to do is say, we want our 50-person grow to have a poison pill or a loophole in there that you can't really organize them. And so it's just stuff that we've got to watch for when really sneaky attorneys are trying to get. And usually when you get somebody like that, it's because those folks want to get a license and they want to sell their business. They don't or sell their license. They don't necessarily want to open up something that's long term. And honestly, like even though we got 3 years on our LPAs, if people aren't in this for the right reasons, we're not going to be good partners long term because we're in it for workers to have good lives and better lives than they have. So, does that answer the question? Yeah, I don't know if that's off topic. I apologize. Nervous.
I found it interesting during the conversation and thought it was important to bring it up just because it seemed like something more people than I would be interested in hearing about. So thank you for elaborating on my non-secular. So thanks.
Hopefully none of you is going to try to sneak any of that stuff.
All right, that's it for the questions that I have on here. Are there any questions from folks in the audience at all about waiver? Yes?
So besides wages and insurance, other things people can win in their collective bargaining agreements?
One thing that we negotiated in our contract, or we hadn't agreed upon it yet, but we talked a lot about scheduling, making sure shifts are consistent, making sure seniorities in place, that people are getting fair, if there's a layoff, like making sure folks are getting considered for how long they're working, break times, making sure, and basically anything that I found the contract was anything that the employees want to talk about in their contract can be talked about. It doesn't have to be just economic factors. It can be things that you really like about your company that you just want to keep around, or things that you want to change and make the process a little more transparent. It will allow, the sky's the limit for what people talk about for these contracts.
Yes.
You're back again? Here I am. All right. Yeah, so basically what she's saying is that it gives the employees a voice, right? So whatever they want to negotiate, they can, and add, we call it fluff, right? Because you're talking wages and benefits, well, they might want new gloves, they might want new boots, right? So every little thing they add, we kind of look at it as there's one bucket, right? And you're going to negotiate how much is in that bucket and how much you're going to pull out of that bucket, right? So if you've got $20 in the bucket, if you want shoes, if you want boots, if you want hats or anything, right? It gives the employee the voice to ask for whatever they want during negotiations. So maybe that kind of answers your question. So it's more than just, it can be as simple as wages and benefits if that's what they choose, right? But if they wanted more fluff, it gives them that right to talk about that.
That brought to mind a couple of other questions from me as well. What are the benefits of unions to employers? We talk a lot about employees and what benefits there are to employees. How do unions benefit employers? Because that's it's an important factor as well.
Touched on it a little bit before, but we have our own health fund meeting, and we get discounts from Blue Cross and Blue Shield and Delta Dental, but it's our own fund. We pay our own bills. That's been established for decades as far as we have a defined benefit pension. As far as that's through our international, but it's 190% funded, so as far as retirement. We have our own training center, training fund, as far as for safety classes, whether it's first aid, CPR, any type of safety classes, customized safety classes. Benefits just for dues paying members. So we have a lot to offer as far as instead of shopping for health insurance or shopping for an annuity or a 401k, we do have a variety of options as far as what we could offer. We don't have to search and hunt for as far as with the employee relations piece. So just a few things.
And also reduce turnover. If you don't have to keep hiring and training people, you can be very proud of the work, but unions create workplace pride.
So the question, can you repeat that question? What benefits?
Yeah, what are
You're talking about just like in general benefits, though, not like benefits in an economic sense, right?
Yeah, generally beneficial to the employer.
So for the small groups here and stuff, like our ability to legislatively lobby for our members in small shops in Minnesota is incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to cannabis and things that have to do with workers that are union. And so lobbying for their businesses to continue to be protected through the bill so that they don't get swept away by the MSOs is going to be a huge thing. That's a benefit to employers and it's a benefit to our members because the better market share that the employers have when we work towards that goal, the more resources are available for us to have strong contracts. So, I mean, I would say, like, the truth is, every single employer we have a relationship with, we fight with them. Now, not in a bad way that hurts them. We argue over, you shouldn't have fired Kelly, he didn't do anything wrong, right? And what we want is there to be just cause and things like that. But that's about as bad as it normally gets, is that we're disagreeing, we're trying to work through things. But at the end of the day, in an industry where we've developed a lot of resources and a lot of allies politically, one of the biggest benefits is that we are going to look out for your workers to be more successful than the folks that don't have unions. And so I would say that that's a huge benefit for employers if we can all do it right.
I'd also like to add that we were at the Capitol. You know, with all this that's been happening, we've been at the Capitol with all these hearings. So for the unionism and helping the employer, we're there for you at the Capitol, right? We're going to take care of that legislation piece. We've been at all the meetings, we've been at all the OCM stuff. So I would say that's a huge point too, that, you know, you guys are benefiting from the unions and we're not even involved yet, right? So kind of put it that way, right? How much if we're helping you out and we're not even signed with you yet, what help do you think we're going to give you when you're signed with us, right? So come underneath our wing, we'll take care of you.
That's a fantastic point. You know, these are intangible benefits of unions and membership and labor in general. So thank you for answering my question. Are there any other questions from the audience? Anyone have any questions? Yes.
What, if any, lessons have you all learned from other states and their labor efforts and how those have gone, and how would you apply that to Minnesota? So lessons learned from other states.
Other states don't have these regulations. So Minnesota is new, this is fresh coming out here. What they've seen in other states is manipulation, right? They've been taking advantage of employees, and also I would say Minnesota is doing it right, regardless of, you know, how many hurdles we've had to go through, and it's taking time. But I do believe at the very end of this we'll have a better system in the state than the other ones, right? So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what everybody wanted was for Minnesota to follow the best practices and learn the lessons from the other states the best we could. Like if you look at New Mexico, you look like, hey, New Mexico set it up for social equities to fail completely. They had like 100 licenses available for social equity. They might have 2 or 3 people that actively are participating in running a cannabis shop. New York wound up opening up so many loopholes that the most responsible people that came in to open up businesses were getting flushed down the toilet because a hot dog vendor was allowed to sell you a $60 hot dog and give you a free bag of weed as a gift. Or you could go buy a $300 t-shirt and get a free ounce of weed as a gift. So those things were huge problems. New Jersey did it better than most of the states. And when we were working on this legislation, we actually used them as a model for a lot of the core pieces of the bill. Now you just have to kind of factor in the populations of the different areas and stuff like that to determine the license numbers. But they're probably the closest. Maybe we try to learn on top of that and make it better. But we also are very inclusive in Minnesota when it comes to the folks that are writing this bill. And so we wound up having like 600 cooks in the kitchen, especially at the end, trying to like kind of get their little piece in there and stuff. And so it's not going to be perfect because we listened to a lot of people when we got the bill done. But hopefully it is better, and it's going to give us as a community the opportunity to determine how we wind up doing stuff. But it's not going to be perfect. I mean, they've already kind of laid everybody out several times throughout the process and changed the goalposts and done everything like that. But we're trying to learn, and we're trying to make sure we don't follow in the footsteps of the really bad ones.
All right, fantastic. Any other questions from the audience?
What do you say to employers that say they can't afford to have a union shop? Conversely, what do you say to union members that say they can't afford to pay dues?
So that your question was what the employer is saying that he doesn't have enough money
Yeah,
to
exactly.
join the. Okay. Well, this industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. If you don't have enough money to support your own industry, your own business, you're probably in the wrong business, right? So I would say that if you can't afford to pay your employees a healthy wage, a family-sustaining wage, plus benefits, you might be in the wrong business. So I think that's probably, and as employees not want to pay union dues, we usually get different benefits involved, right? So as being a dues paying member, you'll get additional benefits. So we kind of, every union's different, I would say, but I guess if you can't pay the dues and you're getting paid good money, that doesn't make good sense. And if the employer is making really good money, they can't pay his employees, that doesn't make sense either, right? So I would say if they're not paying, they can't pay their employees, they got a pretty horrible business model. So to kind of put it blunt is that, you know, you should be able to pay, that's what state statute says, right? So if you can't follow the state law, you're probably in the wrong business.
One thing,
If anything, I'll just briefly, you get what you pay for, right? As far as whether you're a member or an employer, as far as hypothetically, if you think you're gonna attract employees and pay them $10 an hour, they're gonna get the other 10. They're just gonna steal it. I mean, and from an employee standpoint, we're providing service. Look at it as insurance or a lawyer or what have you, as far as, well, yeah, I want you to represent you, but I'm not going to pay you. But take the train. Nothing's free. Like, we do a good job representing people, as well as I'm sure these folks do. So it's like, if you don't want to do this, then we'll do something else. Because we want to represent people to the best of our ability. We also want the employer to do well. So it's kind of, you get what you pay for. If you're going to go with a cheapo model in the Walmart way, good luck. But if you want to pay a decent, sustainable wage, you'll attract employees, they'll be more productive, they'll be happier, they'll make more money.
In our conversations organizing, when people were asking about dues, one thing that we often point out is that we have to vote on the contract, right? If we're getting a contract that is going to make it so our wages with the dues isn't worth it, why would anyone vote for that contract? You know, so inevitably, just by having that contract in place, you're kind of guaranteeing to the employees that it will be worthwhile, because we will get what we ask for or negotiate what we need, and so on and so forth. And when it's time for the contract to come up to vote, if it doesn't seem worth the dues, don't vote for that contract, and we'll work until we get a contract that is worthwhile. And that was something that really gave a lot of comfort to our coworkers, that until they had a contract in place, they weren't going to be paying dues. And so it was, you know, you get your money's worth, you really do.
All right. Any other questions from the audience?
There's gotta be more out there. Come on.
I just want to applaud you on the work that you did do at the Capitol. It's very rare, I think, to have written into legislation that when a new industry is coming online, that they have to have a labor peace agreement. And so that's a huge win right there off the bat, right? The labor peace agreement allows for the workers to unionize if they want to, right? So it's really important. We're surrounded by all these states that are right to work, so we have to maintain standards for the worker.
Good point. Very good.
You're here.
I appreciate that comment a lot. If you've talked to a lot of folks that want to get into the cannabis business when it first becomes legal too, you also wind up talking to a lot of people that were criminals, obviously, because of social equity, but some that are criminals here and some that are like on this end of being criminals. And we need to make sure that we don't have some of the really bad potholes that workers wind up getting sucked into when all of a sudden they've worked for 200 or 300 hours and have gotten $0 from a person who's running taking very, very legitimate business and trying to make it legitimized. We need to have these protections in place because this is notorious for worker abuse in other states where it hasn't been addressed.
We already see see it happening in California. They're going in and raiding farms.
Absolutely. And nobody that was in the industry, especially in the big companies, was willing to acknowledge that processing cannabis flower in a small enclosed area without ventilation killed people until 2 or 3 people died in a very short amount of time that hadn't been doing the job long because they had minor asthma or respiratory problems. So, I mean, we need to make sure that we are protecting workers, giving them the proper protective equipment to do these jobs, making sure that being a bud trimmer, hand trimming buds is the way that the buds look the prettiest. It creates carpal tunnel about 10 times faster than cashiering. We need to make sure that there's rotations, there's ergonomics, that these things are taken care of, because as we found, like, there's not a lot of government oversight over worker safety anymore. And the federal agencies are absolutely fucking not doing a goddamn thing to take care of people right now. So we need to make sure that we are protecting our folks here and making the industry good for people. So I appreciate that comment. It's absolutely true, but especially with cannabis.
All right. Any other questions or comments today from the audience?
Not really, not diagnosed. But I just realized I probably said like 4 or 5 F words, and this might be like a Christian.
It's not.
I just want to make sure. I didn't ask that. Is it okay to swear? I apologize.
If I'm free, everybody in the room can shout fuck. And we can do this. 1, 2, 3. All right.
How we feel at home?
That's right. Now we're all good. Well, that's it, folks. I don't have any other questions. I don't have anything else other than my gratitude for everyone on this panel. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. You've taken time out of your night and offered your expertise to this group, and I cannot express my gratitude enough. Right now. Thank you.
We brought some Vicks with our logo. Take 1 or 2, give one to a friend. They don't have our contact info on them. But
Awesome.
take those, please.
Free lighters.
Thank you, guys.
And there's information up here as well, too.
Vicks, too.